Hello YouTube and fellow sewists. Today I am talking to you about how to transfer pattern markings onto your fabric. On a lot of pattern pieces we will see that these little triangles that are marked on the seam lines, here we've got one single one and we've got a double one here, two triangles here. What they are matching points for you, and they're little clues as to how to match up your fabrics together, your fabric pieces together when you're sewing them, to be confident that you're in the right place and sewing the right piece of the jigsaw puzzle together. So I've got two ways of marking those for you. So here we've got the triangle pieces on here, and on this blue set of pyjamas for the Luna, I've marked them as notches by cutting out the triangles into the fabric piece, out the outside of the pattern piece. So if we lay that on the top, you can see those triangles are just sticking out either side. They give us the confidence that we know that where we are on those right pattern pieces. So that's one way of marking it. Another way is this the way I've done on this pink here, and that is that when I've cut out my pattern piece, after that I've taken my scissors and I have just snipped in by a few millimetres into the centre of each of those triangles, and that puts a little snip in the fabric. So let's remove this pattern piece and I can show you a little more clearly. So here we've got one little snip there, and here we've got two snips here. Can you see those on the left? So hopefully on the mat you can see those. So what they do then is they give us clues as to what we can do. We can take the friction pen also, another quick way, making sure we've tested the friction pen elsewhere. You can just lift your pattern piece slightly and then you can just mark your notch if you want to. Obviously that one's going to be on that because that's a single one. So then we can mark that little notch there with a friction pen. But if you iron your fabric, you're going to lose your mark, so it's not as permanent as either of these two methods. So that's why these two are my preferred rather than the friction. So if we just then take our other pattern pieces, so here we've got the corresponding front piece that this shoulder is going to fit onto, we can see that by matching those two together like that, our triangles do match. So when we put this fabric right sides together and match that seam line, our triangles match perfectly. We would then take our pins and just pin our pieces together, ready to take it to the sewing machine, and then we would stitch our 1/4 inch seam allowance along this line here, confident that we've got our pieces together. After you've sewn it, you can just snip those off, take your snips and just snip those off, those reference points, they're not needed anymore. Or if you're serging, just be careful that if you serge your pieces before you sew your seams pieces together, you are aware that you've not snipped your notches off with the overlocker. So that's that piece there. So with our pink pyjamas, we can see we've got a single snip just in there, another one just in there. So when these are placed right sides together to give us our seam line, we can see that those two are then matched perfectly because we can see straight through. Again, we can use our pins to sew that together, and we would then again just stitch along this line here at a 1/4 inch. Just make sure that when you're doing your snips you don't go into where your sewing line will be, because you don't want that hole to be created on the outside of your garment. You want it to be contained within your seam allowance and behind the stitching line that you're going to do. But once you've done that, then that should help you match up the correct pattern pieces, especially useful on fronts and backs of sleeves, and that will then give you a better sewing success and hopefully less unpicking time. So hopefully you've enjoyed watching this. If you find these tips useful, and obviously I'll get better at filming as time goes on, it's just me practicing and seeing how we get on at the moment. But if you find these videos useful, then please consider subscribing. It doesn't cost anything. Subscribing to the channel, it doesn't cost anything, but it just means that you'll be notified when I do put up any new videos, and hopefully they'll form quite a useful reference going forward. Okay, happy stitching everybody, have a great day.